Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show, an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football. Let's get this show on the road. Lots and lots to talk about. My name is Wisam from FootMex Nation. This is an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football, and let's go right into our question. Say hi to the guys. After 2 weeks, Mr. Tom Marshall, what is the talking point around LigaMX?
Talking point, I'm going to say the big surprise was that Lobos WAP.
Lobos WAP.
I mean, going away to Querétaro, winning 4-0 with a coach who's 38 years old, a former soap opera actor in telenovelas, who, you know, he's not had really any experience coaching apart from last season. A club that averaged around 2,000 last season in the Ascenso MX. In the first game, they only got around 5,000. In the first ever game in the Liga MX, to get 5,000 fans. This is a tiny club, and already on 4 points, beating Querétaro 4-0. I mean, what a story it is. Lobos WAP, for me, the surprise.
Lobos WAP, but Naib likes to call it Mini Tigres. Naib, how are you doing after 2 weeks? What's the storyline of Liga MX?
Buenas noches, Wiso. Buenas noches, Tom, and buenas noches to the audience that is watching us. I would say Pachuca starting with back-to-back losses. You know, I think it's an intense project, this one. You know, I perfectly remember how Jesus Martinez, the owner of Grupo Pachuca, said this is probably the best squad that we have assembled in the history of the club. However, you know, it's still kind of a work in progress. You know, several of their starters were in the Gold Cup. They barely came in, and they were put on the starting 11 by Diego Alonso against America, and it didn't go so well. And of course, the biggest signing that the team made, Keisuke Honda, has yet to debut. So it's still a work in progress over there in Pachuca.
Slow start for Pachuca, but you really think they're going to make that? I mean, he's going to make that big a deal in the club when the Japanese guy comes and takes over and the mania is over and.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we got to see exactly what happens there with his role on the field, I would say, because, you know, ever since Rodolfo Pizarro left Pachuca to Chivas, there's been sort of a void in the midfield for Pachuca that has been really obvious, and it has sort of prevented the team from being more competitive than it is. You know, they won the Conca Champions last season. They missed the Liguilla. So this season, I think Honda's responsibility is to become, you know, that important player in the midfield that Pizarro was once, you know, for Pachuca. And of course, this weekend we saw that Pizarro came in quite a spectacular fashion with Chivas.
Definitely. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about. So we'll go into Liga MX first and have some time. Liga MX Femenil, also the inaugural weekend for the ladies. Just touch on it looks like just Pachuca is just going to tear it up this season. Also for, well, at least for the women's side. And we'll talk maybe a little bit about, of course, all the news over the last week. Jonathan Dos Santos, I know we touched about it last week, but we'll hear the thoughts from the guys. Obviously, keep your questions here. If you haven't joined us on the chat on the Mexican Soccer Show, we're looking at some questions there. There's always, obviously, all the comments. Great to have everybody on. That's why we do it live, so we can read off some of the questions and comments that are there. Just Naib and Tom Cesar taking a break, and Mr. Markowitz, our producer, also I think he's moving, so good luck to him. Been moving for a while, and this is why it's only us today. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and let's go right into it, Tom. Your Chivas, and the only thing Chivas is because he's in Guadalajara. Not saying that that's his team, but at the same time, playing against Cruz Azul, what are the talking points in that match? Paco Gemes doesn't like the press. He's very outspoken. I think that's what's stealing the headlines in Liga MX, at least around this weekend.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think let's start with Chivas' side. I thought they were poor in the first half. I thought Cruz Azul actually got the better of Chivas tactically. Chivas giving the ball away. If you look at the amount of passes that they were just giving to Cruz Azul, and that was because of the high press of Cruz Azul. The pressure meant that Chivas couldn't play out from the back as they usually do, and they suffered because of that, and obviously went in 1-0 behind. But, you know, if there's one thing, we talk about Mateus Almeida and the style of play, but the other thing that I think really defines this Chivas team is the personality, the character that the team shows. And I think in the second half we saw that, because I think the first 45, very definitely the second best team. After the break, though, came together and you showed a different face of Chivas, a different side of them. And they came and they wrestled the game back from Cruz Azul, and in the end earned a draw. I mean, obviously you could tell the difference when the Gold Cup crew are back. You know, Jair Pereira, even Marin there, Rodolfo Pizarro, Orbelin Pineda. I mean, you know, it's a different team with those players in. Isaac Brizuela back as well. So I think that, you know, Chivas, after seeing that game, all right, it's only a draw and they're on 2 points after the first 2 weeks. Yeah, it's not amazing, but you know, I was quite negative about Chivas before the season. But, you know, just seeing the way they reacted against Cruz Azul, I think that, you know, they've got a decent team again, and you know, I can see them making the playoffs. I think that, you know, they've got the personality to do that, I think.
Cruz Azul, naive, and let's hear Mr. Let's hear these words that
En líneas generales, hemos tenido buenos momentos, pero nos ha faltado talento, nos ha faltado claridad futbolística. No empezaré a tocarme los huevos. Venga. He dicho que no me ha gustado mi equipo. ¿Qué queréis que os diga más? No es paso atrás ni paso adelante. Hemos empatado contra el campeón. Esa es la buena noticia. Nos sacamos resultados. Seguimos sin perder. No, Julián Velázquez va a estar casi 4 o 6 meses fuera de los terrenos de juego. Es decir, nosotros hemos perdido 2 jugadores como son Martín y como son Julián, que eran 2 jugadores que habitualmente venían jugando. Y entiendo que el club, si no hace algo al respecto, cometería un error muy grave. Sí, entiendo que esas 2 bajas nos dejan, sobre todo en número, pues mucho más limitado de lo que estábamos. Y creo que el club se tiene que sentar y tiene que replantearse la idea de intentar de subsanar esas 2 bajas, porque son 2 bajas muy importantes para nosotros.
Hey, you lived in Spain for a while.
Yeah.
What does that expression mean, man?
No, well, I mean, it clearly sorting. You know, he doesn't like the Mexican press. I mean, I think that's been kind of obvious since his arrival. You know, there's been altercations, not big ones, but you know, verbal altercations between Gemes and the Mexican press. You know, now he tended to talk before the games. Now he doesn't. He just waits until after the match to speak with the press. He was really calm in Tijuana, and then in Mexico City, everything changed. So it's mainly in Mexico City where the problem lies. But you know, with what he said, I think what we can make conclusions from is that he's sort of already kind of making excuses in case something goes wrong with the team. I mean, it's 4 points out of 6 possible points to start out the season for Cruz Azul. I think it's been a good start considering the opponents also that they played against: Cholos, a semifinalist last season, and of course the defending champions, which is Chivas. So I mean, I do understand the point that he makes about, you know, Velázquez being an important player, also Martín Rodríguez, but I mean, there's other players in the squad that can take over. You know, Enzo Rocco, the Chilean, you know, call-up that BC usually he went to Confederations, Rocco, and there's other players out there in the squad that can help out. I mean, the offense that Cruz Azul has. I mean, it's Cauterucho, Mena, Edgar Mendez, who I think has been one heck of a pickup they brought from Alaves. So I mean, it's not Felipe Mora,
top scorer in Chile.
Yeah, so it's difficult to understand what his point is, you know. But then again, he just loses his mind sometimes when he sees the Mexican press that maybe he makes comments that he maybe might not have made, but he just gets so calentado, as we heard in the bit that we just heard, you know, that he just says crazy things that don't look that professional in a way. It's like you wouldn't imagine Zinedine Zidane or Ancelotti or Pep Guardiola saying those kinds of things. I mean, it's just
for me, he's called out the director of the club. I mean, he's come straight out and said, if you don't get me these players, then forget this season, basically. And I mean, is that wise? Is it wise to do that kind of in public? You know, it's one thing to kind of mention, you know, we could do with replacing those guys. It's another thing to say, you know, what were the exact words? I can't remember, but it was very strong, his wording. It was like, you know, it'd be a grave error. I think that those were the words. Yeah. It'd be a grave error to not replace them guys. Well, you know, they're only injured as well. You know, I know neither of them are going to be back next week, but they're only injured. What do you expect Cruz Azul to go and spend? I mean, the money that's flying around in Mexico these days as well. You expect their directors, they've already spent decent money this summer, to go and spend another $5-6 million, you know, on someone to place Martín Rodríguez. You know, another another defender like Velasquez.
Yeah.
I mean, is that? I mean, I don't know how realistic it is, but for me, I think he's playing with fire because he's coming out and saying it, and he's saying it publicly, and it just makes me wonder what's the relationship like between him and the board. Yayo de la Torre, the sporting director. I mean, would it not be better to just give him a call and say, I'm not really happy with the squad. I need a couple of players here, rather than just explode like that.
And looking at the squad, I mean, the fielded against Chivas, I was like, this is going to be a good Cruz Azul. I mean, they have good players, and I know that we've seen the storyline before with Cruz Azul in that sense. But Tom and Aib, it's different Cruz Azul. I don't know, 2 weeks, and I know that I've seen it, but I don't get the sense that maybe it's premature to say, but it's not the same Cruz Azul that we're always expecting, or at least lets us down. I see some potential with this team.
Definitely, it's a good team. I mean, you saw that first half against Chivas. Let's not forget, Chivas are the champion, and they had most of the players back for that game. I mean, Cruz Azul are the better team. I think they play really good football. They're vulnerable at the back because Paco Jimenez's team are always vulnerable at the back. But, I think it's a team there to enjoy. What's worrying, though, is first in the second half, I thought they ran out of steam. I mean, they were playing in Mexico City, the home city, and Chivas were coming up to altitude. And I thought Cruz Azul ran out of steam. And secondly, it's like Naib touched on then. If Paco Jimenez is feeling the pressure after winning 4 out of 6 points, then I worry if Cruz Azul do lose a couple of games, how he'll react then. That's, I think, the problem for Cruz Azul.
No, and then it's also that problem that the team has that, when they bring players from abroad, they come with a good curriculum. I mean, Cauterucho, look how he was at San Lorenzo and how many games it took him to feel comfortable in the league. The thing we see about Felipe Mora, actually, Felipe Mora, I saw him play in a friendly in Houston against Rayados, and I was really alarmed at seeing how he was giving bad passes all the time, receiving bad passes, giving bad passes. And I was like, I don't know how that could have impacted on Gemes's impression. So that's why he would go out to say, well, we need Martin Rodriguez because this guy Mora might take a while to get accustomed to the league. It's not like Nicolas Castillo and Pumas that right away came in and you knew this guy was going to do something special.
Yeah.
With Mora, it's kind of different. It's hit or miss with these players that do well in a Chilean league, for example, and then they come here and it doesn't work out that well. But it's when you look at how much money they spend, it's top 4 Cruz Azul. No, we always say that in this show. I mean, it's up there with Tigres, Monterrey, Pachuca, America, and it's a team that shouldn't just be challenged to reach the league as a team that should be challenged to go all the way to the final. However, the history that this team carries is so negative that it's rare to see some type of optimism flowing in the squad. Instead of showing optimism, Gemes actually showed pessimism after that draw against Chivas.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing just to add is what message does he send to the players who are supposed to be filling in? I mean, for these injuries, I mean, it's not positive, is it?
It's Cruz Azul, so whatever positive is going to happen, we're kind of used to seeing it to go negative and how it is. Another storyline, guys, America, not because obviously El Grande de America, but Piojo, Miguel Herrera, still looking for the tools necessary. Not America fans, not very happy, but at least I'm seeing them a little patience. You're giving them that patience. I mean, not to start off and start winning. En la Ciudad de México, Naib, America, ¿qué le ves?
No, I think, when he was presented with America in the early, months of the summer, I mean, he said something that resonated, and it was that he wants to stay here for a long time. Of course, Herrera has this obsession to return to the national team. However, I think if there is a perfect combination of a manager and a club, that is Piojo Herrera and Club America. I mean, it's a relationship that can last a long time if things are done well, if the communication between Herrera and the board of directors is an ease, and of course the results. If Herrera starts getting five losses in a row, well, a lot of criticism is going to come down on him. But I think the game in Pachuca was important for the players and winning confidence. I think the return of Cecilio Dominguez adds a lot to the team. Having him healthy, it gives the team another dimension, offensively speaking. And we've been talking a lot about Edson Alvarez in the show because of what he did in the Gold Cup. But when you see him play as a central defensive midfielder, I mean, it's special to watch. I mean, he has this maturity level that few times you spot. You know, I think we'll have to see, because we said the same thing about Diego Reyes, but with Edson, it's kind of different. You know, it hasn't been easy for this guy to get into first division quite early. You know, he was a dropout in Pachuca. He arrived in America, had to work his way up, and he found someone like La Volpe. I mean, if it wasn't for La Volpe, maybe we wouldn't have seen this explosion happen. But I think it's a good sign to have a player like him in the club, because it's always good to have those youth players that come in the academy in America and reach the first team, because that adds a lot of character to the 11.
Yeah. They're ready for against Pumas. I mean, here comes a big test, I would say, in next week's Clásico Capitalino.
Yeah, I mean, I think Guido Rodriguez getting sent off was a blow, because he's going to miss that game now. But yeah, on America, I think Herrera, to be fair to him, you know, he's famous for the 5-3-2, and I think what happened against Pachuca was he found a formation that provided balance for the team, and it was basically a 4-4-2. Yeah. I know that people, you know, differ on. You could call it a 4-2-3-1 with Romero slightly deeper than Oribe Peralta, but I'd call it a 4-4-2, and then I thought in attack it was a 4-2-4. And I think with Guido Rodriguez and Edson Alvarez playing the holding, both of them kind of holding midfielders, it gives the platform for the team to play the four basically forwards, and Darwin Quintero on the right, Romero and Oribe Peralta in the middle, and then Cecilio Dominguez on the left. And I thought the balance. I thought Herrera, to be fair to him, Herrera got it spot on, and that team in that game against Pachuca looked balanced. And you know, I thought that America definitely should have had one penalty and probably another one as well. So it could it could have been more. I mean, let's not forget, America went to a Pachuca team that hadn't lost at Estadio Hidalgo in 29 Liga MX games, and that's a staggering. It's almost 2 years. It's not far off 2 years. I mean, that's in a league like Liga MX, which is so level in terms of the difference between first and last place, to have a 29-game home unbeaten record is absolutely amazing. I mean, I know it's over now, but they should be praised for. Pachuca should be praised for that, because it's so rare that you see that kind of thing in Mexico or anywhere, to be honest. So yeah, I think from America's point of view, I think Herrera's found the system. I mean, I'm sure over the short term that will be the system. You know, they've got the player coming in, Oribe from Colombia, who's got very, very good. People are saying very, very good things about him. And you know, I think Paul Aguilar coming back, he provided the cross for the first goal. Dominguez. I mean, we talked about America last season with La Volpe. Let's not forget that Cecilio Dominguez was injured for most of the season. Yeah. Paul Aguilar was out for most of the season. I mean, he had to deal with quite a lot, to be fair to La Volpe.
There was no Guido Rodriguez as well, Tom.
Yeah, he had no real holding midfielder. So, I don't know. I like this America team. I think anything is possible for this America team with Miguel Herrera. He's got time. I think he's got the talent in the team. And I think if he can get it together, there's no reason they can't make a title challenge. And against Pumas, yeah, I mean, to be fair, I was in Estadio Jalisco for the Pumas game, and you know, again, I don't know. Every time I see Pumas live, I'm disappointed. I don't know. I thought it was, yeah, all right, Atlas won 2-1, but I thought it could have been more. I thought Atlas were quite dominant, and I see the Pumas team on paper, and I quite like it now. You know, I think it's got something about it, but then when I see it play, it's not very exciting. I don't know. I think if you look at the stats, it's the most. Over the first two jornadas, it's been the most direct team in the Liga MX, and I don't know. I'm just not quite. Don't know. I can't get to grips with Pumas right now. I can't get excited.
No, and there that you just mentioned, Tom, with Pumas, is a process that it's entering its third season, no, with Paco Palencia, no. So you do want to see some type of idea flowing already in the team, especially considering that, you know, he does kind of have a backbone, no, with Alcoba, Abraham, and Castillo, and you work around that, and you should produce something. And, you know, there's this emphasis in Pumas that we got to go back to the cantera and put him to play. But the thing is, for the most part, the cantera from Pumas has been rather weak, I think, in the last years. It hasn't produced a significant talent. Perhaps right now it's Jesus Gallardo, who has gotten a lot of opportunities from Juan Carlos Osorio, and that's noticeable. But behind Gallardo, the class is not so strong. For example, you see Van Ranking that always gets opportunities, and he tends to mess them up, but there's no other options behind Van Ranking. So, I mean, it's an interesting case, considering that Pumas is really obsessed or really putting emphasis in that idea that they have to return to giving opportunities to the youngsters, but maybe the youngsters are not that ready to play in first division.
LigaMX keeps going with the roundup.
Yeah.
Okay, go on, Tom.
No, just with Pumas, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of positions. I think the goalkeeping position. I mean, Picolin no longer there, and I think they need to sign a top quality goalkeeper for a start. Yeah, that's all. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think Pumas fans are particularly happy with Palencia. I know he's like a kind of club legend, but I know that I was writing on Twitter. I was at the press conference, and Palencia was like, it was a pretty even game. But then everyone on Twitter was like, Pumas were well beaten, and that's how I saw it as well. So I don't know. I don't think going the way you would have wanted at this stage right now. But I think we have to point out that there's so much money being spent in the league right now, and I don't think Pumas have matched that. And I think that's one of the problems. Pumas might be one of the big four, but I feel like in terms of spending, left behind.
Yeah.
Continuing Liga MX, Tigres. The tie against Santos, who, man, I don't think I remember Tigres not starting a win, 2 wins since 2013, I think, especially with the type of team that they have. Santos, very, very hard place for Tigres to win in La Comarca, which is a storyline there. And Vargas, who every time I see him playing Tigres, I just think he's amazing scoring goals. He scores more goals for Tigres than he does for Chile, which obviously because of the caliber that Chile has. But ¿qué les pareció? Not a penal. I think it's kind of given in that sense, and maybe Chaton had something to do with Vargas' goal. But overall, Tigres being Tigres, missing players from last season. Do you see the same Tigres?
You want to go, Tom?
Yeah, all right, just quickly. Yeah, I mean, no, it's a different Tigres. It's a different formation. It's like, what are we going to call it, a 3-4-3?
Yeah, I think that's what it is, yeah.
Definitely 3 centre-backs. You've got Dueñas and Zelarayan as the central midfielders, and then Aquino, Dam on the wings, and then Valencia, Vargas, and Gignac up front. So it's a different team. Tuca's obviously been working very hard in the preseason on this new formation. I don't know, Pumas, I think, started off brilliantly. That goal was absolutely brilliant by Vargas. The way that Gignac's pass sliced open the defence. Dam, his decision-making is always a problem, and he played the perfect ball for Vargas to score. And Tigres, at times, you just sit back and you're like, this is brilliant football. You're absolutely dominating the opposition. But it's that old thing where they scored the goal, and I just thought they took the foot off the... Yeah, and I just thought they let Santos back in. And it was definitely a marked... Tigres are absolutely dominating. Santos was really struggling to do anything in the game. So even get across the halfway line. And then all of a sudden, Tigres scored. And then for some reason, Santos, within 10, 15 minutes, they'd had a couple of chances. And this is the frustration about Tigres. Why don't they keep that pressure up? Because they're good enough, both in terms of keeping the ball and goals, to continue the pressure and to go for the second, the third, the fourth, like they did against Puebla in week 1.
No, yeah, and then I think that the whole situation in midfield will be interesting to see. I mean, he started Dueñas and Zelarayan there, not having Guido Pizarro, who actually did well over there in London in the Emirates Cup. Guido Pizarro seems that he's going to be a starter in Sevilla, and that tells you a little bit of how good of a player he was in LigaMX. The situation there and who they're going to bring in, no? Because, I mean, they were the player that's coming to America, Uribe, was rumored to go to Tigres.
I heard he agreed the deal. Yeah, I heard the deal was agreed, and it was just, then the player decided and stuff.
Yeah, so look, it's telling you right there what the situation is. I mean, it's probably going to be a big name. I mean, the name that has been sounding has been the one of Gary Medel, which would be huge in the sense. Like, I know Gary with the Chilean national team kind of plays a little bit back as a center back, but he started his days as a defensive midfielder. I mean, that's his natural position in a way. But having a player of that sort will change a little bit the dynamics, I would say. But it does give you a sense that he's going to go with that 3-4-3. With Bam and Aquino on the wing backs. And it tells you a little bit of how exciting they're going to be, especially at home, because I did see that drop in tempo, that Tom mentioned that happened in Torreon, but against Puebla, it was just masterful from start to finish. And I think that's going to be their deal. I think at home it will be a different kind of, take initiative. And with Santos, I mean, it's interesting with Santos having Chaton as a center back, and I think we saw how the team suffered with that problem, but I mean, he still managed to make some good interceptions. It's a difficult position for Chaton, because that's not, his natural position, but he still kind of managed to play it out, and he hasn't been a constant starter in I would say 2 years or more. So it's a big moment for him, no?
Yeah. No, I think my worry for Tigres is if you're playing Jesus Dueñas and Zelarayan central midfield, I just think you're going to give up chances. It's definitely without Pizarro there. You've got no natural holding midfielder. Dueñas, you could argue, is more inclined to play that role, but he's still not holding midfield. If you look where he plays for Mexico, it's not holding midfield role.
Dueñas is more
last season.
What a drop from Dueñas too. Like in his level of play, I mean, maybe the Gold Cup, maybe just todavía está, I don't know, in that bad summer, but watching him play, just what got him to the national team, and is he losing that, or did he just have way too much to play there?
Yeah, I think he's just a little drop in form. I don't think he's anything to worry about. It's don't forget the start of the summer he had a problem, didn't he? And that's why he didn't go to the Confederations Cup. And we've not found out exactly what it was officially, but that
we don't find out any more problems. Nobody tells us anymore. They don't want to talk about it.
Nobody else
talk about back scoring goals. Still don't know.
But in general, I mean, Tigres still for me out there. I don't think Tuca Ferretti is going to keep with the three-liner defense too much longer. I just think his natural instinct will make it into a back four again, because I think he'll look for defensive security first. But it's an option. It's exciting to see Tuca changing things up, even at this stage of his career as well.
Yeah, no, good point, because I mean, of course, with this 3-4-3, Ayala's not involved, and now Ayala's back. So I mean, that automatically gives you an idea that perhaps he's going back to the 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. Ismael Sosa, we're not even thinking about him right now, and it's like, where do you put him now? I mean, where does he go?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Continuing, because we could talk about Torrente almost losing his job, which I'm thinking it's coming soon. If there's something else happening, even though Leon or Lobos Buap. Tom, you touched on Lobos Buap with a team that we couldn't see the first week. Finally, we get a chance to see this exciting team. I mean, the players, all the goals were great. I think for people that were expecting maybe another relegation team to come in and have we seen in the past, I mean, good for them, and especially in what you said, that the storyline behind Lobos is amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's come from absolutely nowhere, and he's obviously studied a lot. You can tell he speaks very well. He's an actor. He was a former ESPN analyst, so he can speak. You know what I mean? There's some managers, they speak and they don't convince you, but this guy obviously knows how to address a group. You know what I mean?
His dad is Rafa Puente.
Yeah, so he's from the background as well.
Background, Rafa, and was Rafa a goalkeeper? Or did he play?
No, I think he played several minutes in one game. The dad is a goalkeeper. Yeah,
the dad was a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so I mean, he's from that background. He's been brought up with it. It's like, and he's got a way of playing. He obviously likes attacking football. He don't like to sit back. He's going with his team that, let's not. This is the smallest team we've seen in LigaMX. definitely for a number of years. I mean, this team is tiny. I mean, it's only attracting 5,000 fans for its first ever game in the LigaMX. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, you know, it's got, I think the stadium's like 16,000 or something. To only draw 5 out of 16 for your first game is abysmal. So, you know, putting that aside, the team's playing well. I mean, it's, you know, I think the signings have been shrewd. I don't think they've just plucked these signings from anywhere. I think he's actually studied the players. I think there's a lot of, you know, analytics gone on behind it, and you can see the way they play. 3 out of the 4 goals were crosses into the box. If you saw on the other day, and I think they've had more crosses into the box than any other team. I think it's level with another team, but you know, that's the style of play. They're quite, I wouldn't say direct, but they're more direct than most teams for a Mexican team. So it's interesting what he's doing, and you know, I think you've got to applaud it, because it's a team coming up from the second division. Instead of kind of trying to nick us a draw here and there, sneak a result, defend, they're like, forget it. Look, we're a really small team. Everybody's expecting us to go down here. We might as well have a go. We might as well go to Querétaro, who's another team who like to have the ball, and absolutely go at them. Like, why not? What have we got to lose here? And obviously, I think the team spirit seems, I think that's shining through as well. I think he's got a good group together there as well.
Well, I think he definitely keep going. It could, I mean, the relegation, at least the relegation fight is going to be nice and fun, especially this year. They do have Pachuca coming up, and we'll see where they keep going. But go ahead, Naive.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite fascinating observing this, because it's a total opposite of Necaxa's way with Poncho Sosa. No, it was more, you know, defensive. That was the first thing, and of course, what helped Necaxa in their first season was Edson Puig. You know, having that type of player that can automatically change your panorama of things on offense was huge. With Lobos WAP, I don't, you know, I found there was a tweet from Marc Rosas, who's an analyst right now on Univision Deportes, and we always have these great chats with him about tactics and football-wise, you know, because he was, you know, born and raised in La Masia, and for him to tweet that Lobos performance in Querétaro was one of the best that he had seen in a while, it says a lot, you know, because is this offensive style? It's basically only 3 stay in the back and the rest attack. You know, it tells you how dynamic the team is. You know, you see the positioning, for example, Luis Advíncula is more of as a winger close to the forwards than as a defender. And that tells you a little bit of the ideas with Rafa Puente Jr. I mean, they have nothing to lose and plenty to win. I'm pretty sure that if this dynamic continues, those 5,000 fans are going to turn to 15,000 in Puebla, because in Puebla, they do know good football. The thing is that right now, there's still this cloud over the city that, you know, the team that is number 1 in Puebla is Puebla. Mm-hmm. But as we have seen, it's probably not going to be the case. The team that's going to be more exciting to watch is going to be Lobos. So I think that's going to be a kind of a snowball effect as the games go by, the results come in. But it is exciting because, you know, what Rafa Puente Jr. represents is a young coach, Mexican, you know, that is putting his ideas on the field, and they're actually working out, you know, with an interesting batch of players, because we're talking about Colombians, Peruvians, you know, the goalkeeper that got hurt, unfortunately, Lucero, Uruguayan goalkeeper.
It was like penalty kick stops.
Yeah. So I mean, its cheek was broken or whatever, a fracture in the face.
Yeah, three places.
Yeah.
On the chat, I got to definitely point this out. Our amigo Jolie, Rafa Puente making Massa great again.
Well, yeah, he scored a goal. It was interesting seeing him.
Massa was in the top, like one of the top defenders over the weekend. I was looking at that. I mean,
Massa,
Medina,
Rafa, Negro Medina,
Negro Medina, Rafa Marquez, Massa, Paola Aguilar.
2014 all over again.
There you go. Now you're gonna go to some Puebla games. You're right there. Just get Primera Plus. Take that 1.5 hour con tu sandwichito, first class. Get there.
What is Semita?
Una semita. I'll definitely make those trips often down there, especially if they continue this deal that they're not televising the games.
Yeah, you're right there. Go Cholula if you want. Go around. Fun times are going. All right, really quick before we finish our Liga MX, Torrente, how many games do you think he has, Naib?
No, I mean, I think it's very few. I think this weekend's gonna be important. No,
You're hearing that que no lo quieren.
yeah,
Even,
I mean,
like, bad things
but
are saying around it.
it's just seeing, for example, the fans and how they express themselves. You know that since they're the little brother of Pachuca in sort of way, and they're getting the short end of the stick. You see how Pachuca got reinforced, and then at the same cannot be said about León.
It's like his dad is like saying, let me take care of my team. And you're my son. You
get the Club World Cup, it's a Club World Cup. That kind of is an important
point. León fans really feel that. They hate it. Because arguably, if you look at the history of the game, León are the bigger club. I mean, historically, León were the first Campeonísimo.
Yeah, no.
And León fans resent that. There's even a chant. I think I went to a León Pachuca game, and they even chant about, I don't know, say against Pachuca and the brother thing, you know what I mean, the little brother or whatever, saying not gonna repeat what they say, but it's not nice. But
where's our soccer school?
Yeah, where's ours?
Where's our university?
Where's our soccer university?
Where's our press box? Where's our?
Oh, you want to talk about the press box and internet and Wi-Fi?
Leon's great though. They've got a press box in the corner of the ground, but it's just with the fans. So there's no plugs for the computer, no internet. It's not like the internet doesn't work, like, for example, at Atlas. It's just like there is no internet. Like, there is none. So forget it. But anyways, if you go in there as a press, you can go in the corner, but you can't see anything because you're right in the corner, like really near the pitch. So it's like you can't see the game. You can't see really what's going on the other side of the stadium. But the other option at León is you can climb up to the roof. You can get on the roof there and kind of perch over, and there's no like barrier or nothing. It's not very safe, but you can go up there and you actually get a great view of the game. So you have to decide if you go there as press, like which one to go. But I always go on the roof because it's it's quite fun. You can see all the crowd and there's not really many people there, and I don't know, but it's pretty interesting. But yeah, it's stuff like that. I mean, León.
It's a historic club. I mean, I always love it every time I go up there and listen to the fans and talk to the fans. Because like Tom just said, I mean, when you go as press to León, you basically interact with the fans because you have no other choice. You sit around, you look for a chair that's white, that's open, no one's sitting, so take it. And if someone comes and takes you out, well, ni modo. You move to another one, and then you interact with other fans. But that's how the process goes. León is going against Cruz Azul next weekend. I mean, that tells you a little bit of how complicated that game's going to be, because Cruz Azul is even if James was pessimistic after that draw against Chivas, they have a good start. With León, it's this block, that has been together for a lot of years, with Chapito and Boselli being the main ones. It's unfortunate that, for example, someone like Burdizo, is not available right now. And I think Burdizo probably was one of the good center backs that the team had. And now the ones that are available are not so good. But, let's see what Elias Hernandez does as well. I mean, he's always an important player for that team.
Yeah, no, León, just seeing the quality of the players, I mean, you can't do a lot. I've seen Yarbo just do bad mistakes when he's been playing there too. And from injuries from last year, I think carrying over to this season, and now Torrente in the hot seat and how we're doing, it's I do say that, León really doesn't do anything until week 7 or 8 or 9. So even then it would be, so hopefully for my team, Los Panzas Verdes. Let's look at really quick. Well, as far as Necaxa, Atlas, the only two games with the only teams that have 2 wins. But other than that, next week, Monarcas Santos Laguna, Club Tijuana versus Monterrey. We didn't talk a little about Xolos. Still haven't found what they're looking for. Go ahead, Tom.
I mean, no, Xolos did not score a goal. I mean,
at all.
No, I mean, they're not scored a goal. It's not looking good. But I mean, if you make so many changes from off season, and you get rid of, like, what is it in the Mexican League, a top manager like Miguel Herrera, doesn't know the league, and you get rid of Guido Rodriguez, and you get rid of Caraglio, you get rid of other, Aviles Hurtado, you're going to struggle. It's just as simple as that. I mean, it's going to take a miracle for you not to struggle from one season to the other. And maybe they'll get it together in the next few weeks. But this is the challenge for Xolos. Championship, they gradually disintegrate the team, until they got to a point where they were fighting relegation. And then they were like, oh, we better spend some money now. And then they spent some money on players. And then all of a sudden they finished Super Leader for the last 2 seasons, which is, you know, if last season was like the European style league, Cholos would be champions. They had a very, very good team, and Miguel Herrera did very well as manager. But now, you know, I mean, they're going through this experience now of molding a team together while trying to compete in a competition which is quite equal and quite strong right now as well, and they're suffering.
Just get to the eighth spot. That's all you need. Lobos Boa versus Pachuca. It'll be interesting to follow Lobos, and Pachuca not having the greatest of starts. That's on Saturday. León Cruz Azul. Hablamos de eso. Torrente, if he's got another, and it's not like León's just losing. They're losing badly. So you could definitely see Cruz Azul coming up, and there's definitely gonna be a storyline. And Guadalajara, Necaxa again, the team that has won twice, only team with Atlas. Tigres Querétaro, which we've seen fighting, you know, what Tigres has, and include América and Pumas, el Clásico Capitalino, which always steals the headlines in how we see that. So aside from, you know, your group, el Clásico Capitalino, and maybe the Lobos, any other storylines are next weekend?
This weekend.
I mean,
Tijuana, Monterrey. I mean, continue to Monterrey.
Avilés Hurtado is returning to Tijuana, and Avilés hasn't scored yet for Monterrey, so that could become a storyline over there.
Yeah, I'm interested to see Necaxa and Atlas. Obviously, the only 2 teams with perfect records. I'd be very surprised if both of them win, or either if one of them wins. I mean, Necaxa going away to Chivas, very difficult game. It's Toluca, and Toluca played. They've done all right. I mean, they defeated León. Massive test for Atlas. I mean, it's coming together. Let's be honest. I mean, I know, you know, Atlas is this kind of, you know, this fans get really built up and everything collapses. At the minute, things are looking nice for us. I mean, probably a good little team together. I mean, I'm the best in the league, but it works. You can see it's not going to be easy for any team that starts this season. It's a very working team, honest team, intense team, and all that Caraglio up front. You've got Caraglio, who's probably the best striker in the air in the league right now in terms of his aerial game. And Alostisa is the little guy who feeds off him. It's a traditional like big man, short man strike partnership. Very simple. But I mean, I think it's going to cause a lot of teams a lot of problems this season.
Well, good. We'll see. Interesting. Keep going with 3 weeks already, and Liga MX starting next weekend. The debut of the Liga MX Femenil. Lots of. It's like everyone was just kind of focused on the US side. I mean, I'm looking just for news stories. Instead of celebrating the historic, you know, the season in the first weekend, and we saw. People were talking about, obviously, all the extra stuff. A great article that you wrote, Tom. But other than that, Liga MX Femenil has started. What are the talking points? What should the fans know? I know a lot of people are not watching or looking to see where they can see the game, especially here in the United States. Pero lots of people talking about it. Lots of buzz con las damas allá en Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for example, it's a combination of certain teams that some teams are having their games actually in the stadium. In other teams that are in the training grounds. You know, Pachuca, you know, that had the debut, did it at Estadio Hidalgo, and I think 6,000 people went. So it tells you how it was a free entry, but 6,000 people showed up. Other stories, for example, in Querétaro, there was this goalkeeper, Camila Franco, 14 years old, and she started, you know, so those type of stories are you like, she's 14 and she's already playing against the pros. So those
you know,
are
the youngest player in the league, 12 years old.
12 years old.
There's a 12-year-old.
A 12-year-old in Morelia.
So I mean,
that's kind of cool to have. Let's say, you know, you have a sister, you have a daughter, and you know she's playing football at school, and you see that a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old are playing, and you're like, okay. You play professional for a team. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think that's the whole idea of the league, and I think that's what the massive take is from this league. I mean, I think if you're, not just for women, but I think just for all Mexicans, I mean, it's like you can see now that there is a path to to playing for a team. If you're good, if you start young and work at it, then you can play for Chivas. You can play for Club America. And I think it's that message. It's a huge and a really important cultural message that girls can play, and that's fine, and that's good, and it's being encouraged, and it's acceptable, and the institutions are supporting it. I think it's really important that. I mean, I thought it was a positive weekend. I went to the Chivas Atlas game.
Yeah, you got a chance to talk to former national player. I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say there was 30 media members there, and there's a lot of people. Unfortunately, it was in Chivas San Rafael, which is kind of like the team's second training center. So it's not even the main one, but so there's a massive fence, and everyone was kind of scrambling to see the game from the fence. But it was a good atmosphere. I think we're seeing the difference between teams that kind of are putting real effort into it and those that aren't. For example, Atlas didn't even have the proper shirts. They didn't have the sponsorship on the shirts or anything. So and they weren't very good. I mean, Chivas, they won 3-0, but it could have been a lot more. And aside from that,
Tom, are they paying? I mean, is every team paying their players from what you hear? And
yeah, I mean, some of the younger players are getting scholarships and stuff. But yeah, they're paying the players. I mean, it's not big money, obviously. And
what does that mean? And for some of the fans, because they're just kind of looking at it from what I know it's not big money, but obviously they're not going to pay like the guys or nearly as the guy. But if you could take like the worst, Chiapas, well, they're not even getting paid. But as far as that, what are the comparison to the big, Pachuca, America? I would say Chivas.
I mean, I think it's starting off anywhere like $120, $150 a month, and then going up. I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's not like, oh, you're gonna drop everything and do this. I mean, families are supporting these girls. There's some scholarships out there. Some of them are going to university and then playing for the teams on the side. So it's very much a work in progress. It's not there yet. They need more sponsorship. They need TV rights. They need these games to be showed, to be visible. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to work on. Let's not make any bones about it. But it's there. And I tell you what, you've got a club in Pachuca who are showing the way. I mean, if you look at what Pachuca have done as an institution with their women's team, it's very, very good. They've got a young female coach who speaks very well. He's very, seems to be doing a good job. They've had a huge scouting drive to bring in players. They've actually just signed a girl from Chicago, Alex Godinez, she was born in Mexico. She's a goalkeeper. So, they really are, scouting very hard. They've been on tour in the United States to kind of refine the playing style and get the girls to know each other. And the result is that they're by far the favourites. A really important message that the Pachuca women's team and the Pachuca men's team took the team photo last season together. And I think just little things like that really resonate. Pachuca also played in Estadio Hidalgo. So yeah, I think if you look at what's the way forward for the LigaMX Femenil, I think you look at Pachuca as that's the institution to follow. Quick word on Tigres though, because this weekend coming up, and this for me is a brilliant initiative. Tigres Femenil are going to play right after the men's game. So Tigres against Querétaro is on at 7 o'clock in Estadio Universitario. And then straight after, then it's going to be Tigres against Chivas in the Femenil. Nayeli Rangel is going to be playing, and I think what Tigres fans are like. I mean, I'd be surprised if Tigres fans
just stay.
Yeah, if they
crazy, keep going with the
that move. I think is brilliant from Tigres. I think that is that's more resonating because it comes right after the men's game. The crowd will be there. I mean, it's so new that you got to test different ways to get the attraction to the team. I mean, of course, every club is different. The thing that Tom said about Pachuca, I mean, the thing about Pachuca, the special is, and we were just joking about it, but the fact that they got this university of football gives them so many advantages. I mean, I was there at the presentation of Keisuke Honda, but I wasn't that much. I mean, I was amazed of how the presentation went, but I was more amazed with the facilities, you know, of how everything just works out. You know, on one side you see the U13s training, the U15s, the U17s, the first team, the women's team, and it's all enclosed in just one region. And just to see that happen before my eyes, I was like, whoa, are we in Mexico or are we in Europe? You know, it's totally different, that vision that they have. And I mean, I think it's really, you know, it's really good to have a Pachuca represent Mexico in the Club World Cup because of those type of things, you know, that is so inclusive in all the levels, you know. And I think the same can be said probably with Santos, no? It's another example, and it's probably the same way. But the more you have that interaction of all teams, women's and men's, I mean, that takes you to another level.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be exciting to see how the you know, the Chivas girls, the women, especially if those fans, you know, and they're gonna get into it, and I'm sure maybe Barras are staying in there, and you know, playing in that type of stadium. I'm sure it's not gonna be the same, but at the same time, more than any of those girls that have been playing in that type of atmosphere, which should be fun.
it's going to be. That's exactly what it's all about. That's the idea, that these girls, like, over 50% of the league, the average age of the squads are under 20. So I mean, imagine Chivas' average age under 20 as well. I mean, imagine them going to Estadio Universitario, and you know, like you said, we still feeling that pressure. And when you step that up onto the world stage, then it's the same as Osorio's talking about players, you know, going to Europe and testing themselves. It's exactly the same in the women's game. I mean, Mexico is gonna, if you know, the only thing is though, it has to keep improving. You know, this is a massive first step, but it has to keep improving. There can't be kind of a, you know, because this was the first week, there's a lot of attention, and naturally that could die down, and it's important that everybody involved doesn't let it die down, and they keep the pressure on, and they keep the interest there, because if not, we know that as quickly as this league was formed, it can fold. Like, make no mistake about it. I mean, it was rushed. The whole, you know, everything about it was rushed, but it's there now and it's great. But we can't let it kind of take a back seat now. And you know, the thing about the Mexican Americans, I mean, hopefully, it is an absolute ridiculous, to be honest. I mean, that was one of the things I was thinking of the game. It's like you've got people like you know, Olivia Jimenez, Veronica Perez, Monica Alvarado, three national teamers with a lot of experience, went to, you know, US colleges playing soccer and at a good level. And it's like, I'm just looking at the Chivas Atlas, and I'm thinking, a couple of these girls in this game, you know, not just for the quality of the game, but just the experience they've got to pass on to the younger girls. I mean, I think the teams are missing out from not having Mexican Americans, to be honest. But from what I've heard, it might not, the rule might be overturned, not in the very near future, but I don't think it's going to be there to stay.
Well, I heard, and from people that represent some Mexican American girls, that they were doing this. They didn't want to publicly say, I mean, the Mexican FMF, but it was more of a first season, second season type.
Yeah, it just makes me laugh, because it's like, imagine that for like public relations. Like, we're not going to really say it. We're just going to let the girls go to register after spending a whole preseason to be in Chivas and be in America. And then when they can't register, we'll just put it under the carpet and hope nobody
notices. Because if you type Femenil on Google on the United States, and it's pretty much a story that Mexican Americans can't play in the league.
Yeah,
just bad.
It's bad. It's bad.
Oh, and then I think the last time we were talking about all the other extra stuff about the wages and pregnancies and if women that were gay, they shouldn't be talking about it. I think if that came out, and then all of a sudden, you know, I think the FMF wrote something up that it wasn't true.
But honestly, it was a real shame that came out, because it turned out it came from one source, and you know, I'm not saying that source is lying, but I don't know. It shows sometimes the state of Mexican journalism as well. That one story citing one source,
and everyone was
then picked up by a lot of other media outlets, and everybody went with it. And even when it was denied, or even when the people who had published it denied it, and then it kind of 3 days later it comes out in like the Argentine press, you know, and it gets picked up in Europe. and it's not, you know, it's not true. But then, you know, it gets spread all over the world, and that's the initial impression of the league. But I mean, I don't know. I know I'm rambling
Fake
on
news,
a bit now.
Tom. Fake news.
No, but it does. I don't know. It's something very kind of Mexican politics, where if somebody high up, especially males, do something good, then you can't really criticize. You know what I mean? They expect no criticism, and I can see that with the LigaMX Femenil as well, because they've started a league. I feel like they don't accept criticism either. If you know what I mean. I don't know if that makes sense. Because they've done a good deed, then it's like, well, you can both applaud the league and what it's done, and also kind of criticize. That's what everybody should be doing.
Because then nothing is perfect. Yeah, nothing is perfect.
And that's how things get better, basically. Anyways.
No, interesting. We'll keep continuing to talk about it and tweet about it. You know, I think it's the only way that people are going to get their news, and us in the media and on that side, it's continue to do that, right? Make sure it's growing and it's going into a positive way. I know we don't have a lot of more time. Jonathan Dos Santos is finally a real thing. He kind of, I think Monday or Tuesday, people were talking about it. Maybe it could happen. And bam, you know, by Thursday, our friend Ivis just said, yep, it's reality, and got presented Friday, and everyone was just kind of taken by storm that that actually happened. And a little bit about America. Don't know how did talk about it in a press conference, how there was
let me just quickly about that story. When everyone was like, no, America tried to sign him, maybe. I'm like, okay, Herrera said America had him also. No, I don't know. I'm not taking Herrera exactly his whole world.
Exactly.
To be honest.
But we'll see. Nothing else you can do. I mean, hopefully it proves us wrong. Him and his brother just spark up great and bring LA Galaxy to be the #1 team in the world. I mean, we don't want anything to happen, but I mean, I don't see that many people being that excited aside from LA Galaxy fans and MLS fans. It goes back to you know, but Liga MX and maybe that rivalry. But
we've got a quick question for Naib. I remember he wrote a tweet saying that as disappointing as the Gold Cup was, that Jonathan Dos Santos signing for Galaxy would be more disappointing. Do you still believe that?
Yeah. Because I mean, I'll keep my words there. I mean, when you see the potential that Jonathan has, you know, the vision that he has on the field, and the dynamic type of midfielder that he is, and what we've seen so far with the national team under Osorio, is that he does make a difference. I mean, when Jonathan Dos Santos is on, El Tri tends to play better. You know, there's a new dynamic to it. You know, I just think that he has so much potential still left in him. You know, because playing at Villarreal at a high level and starting most of the games, you know, it just doesn't make sense for him at 27 years old come to the MLS. And look, what bothers me is that he mentions, players like Lampard, like Villa, like Pirlo come. How old are they? They're over 33. You know, you can't compare yourself to those players. You're 27. You still have a lot to give in European football. You know, I know that the MLS is growing and so forth and blah, blah. I mean, I applaud Galaxy that they're catering the Mexican-American market by bringing in Giovanni and Jonathan. I think that says a lot about their ownership and how they want to attract those fans over there in LA. But, you know, the thing is that these players, Giovanni and Jonathan, just showed a lack of trying to achieve more things in the world of football. Or there might be ill advice, you know, by someone that just puts, you know, money in front of the sporting. And that's understandable.
Not that much money. I mean, when it comes down to it, everyone keeps saying, in
Europe they were winning good money as well, no?
It wasn't that much money as people keep saying, he's cashing in. Maybe
Jonathan said it was only a little bit more.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I believe him, but I don't know.
I mean, sure, maybe obviously it's LA and the glamour and sponsorships, and you know, you saw his brother with a popular chain of restaurants, you know, and I'm sure making in that sense. I get it, and they're close. I think his dad had a lot to do with it, bringing everybody together. The Dos Santos camp, and it made sense for him. Again, it's hard to.
It just struck. I mean, I haven't checked Villarreal's Twitter account in the last hours, but I didn't see Villarreal saying goodbye to Jonathan. they did say it when Musacchio, the center back, Argentine center back, went to Milan.
Thank you. Gracias.
Gracias. But with Jonathan, no, and it tells you a little bit of how the dynamics were. I mean, Fran Escrivá, the manager over there in Villarreal, really wanted Jonathan to stay because he was an integral part of the team. But this is a personal decision, and it really didn't care about what Villarreal did for Jonathan. I mean, Villarreal gave him the opportunity to play first division in Spain, when no one else kind of believed in him. So, I mean, I think that's the other way to look at it.
We've seen this kind of like, I'm just going to do what I feel is happy and not, it's better for me type of reaction from Jonathan. When everyone was telling him to leave Barca and he just liked to be the last, he knew he wasn't going to play a single minute, and he kept it there, even though he had offers from other places just because it's Barcelona, right? And it's go play in a team. But again, as far as for us being in the U.S., I'll watch LA Galaxy games, and he got me. I'll see how he does, and see he continues to drop that form. I'm a little skeptical of the fact that he's just got done with this summer. Here comes the MLS season is going to end in October. That break until March, I believe, and then here comes the World Cup in the summer.
They got a new coach. They got a new coach.
They got a new coach. Yeah,
Schmidt returns. Another stint in LA Galaxy, I believe.
They brought in Jonathan and they fired the coach.
Yeah, so I mean that's.
And the reason why I know.
But it also tells you about the situation in the club. The club is not doing so well. I mean, even before the arrival of Jonathan, and when you talk to people that know about MLS and cover the team regularly, they say, well, they really didn't need a player like Jonathan. They needed a striker to put in the goals, to play alongside Giovanni. But this it tells a little bit of the power that Giovanni Dos Santos has in the team as well.
All right, I know we went over already 1 hour. Fun talks with the Mexican Soccer Show, Naib and Tom. We could keep continuing to talk Mexicans abroad. 19 players already, and seasons are about to start, so we'll see from there. Thank you to everybody on the chat. Se pasaron, les voy a decir. By the way, I don't moderate the chat, so everyone keeps saying that I keep deleting your comments. That's not me. We do have a moderator, and but I take it easy.
Stupid stuff, and you won't get moderated.
take it easy, guys. You don't have to kill each other over them. They're fighting, but that's just fun. I see someone's always. All right, guys, we'll continue to follow the Mexican Soccer Show, and obviously everyone here. Tom at ESPN FC, Naib ESPN FC in Espanol and in English that he's writing there. No more games, Tom, for a while with the Mexican national team. It's like a break, at least till September. The Osorio dying down, but as far as once we start hearing call-ups again, is going to come out soon, because we do have a game coming up September 1st. 2 big games for the Mexican national team, but we'll see there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Osorio's back in Colombia, I believe. Obviously intense summer, so I think he's chilling out with family back there. And then, won't be long before the game's creep up again.
You know what, really quick, and I know we got to go, but a Colombian friend, well, not friend, someone that big diehard Colombian football told me that he just comes out, he's like, just have patience in Osorio, man. Just have patience. He brought us to a championship, and nobody believed him. Like, this guy was telling me, and I'm like, is it just Colombian? He's like, no, I don't like Pinto, I don't like Bolillo, but Osorio, just have patience with him. No one believed what he could do, and then he got us a championship in Nacional.
No, Osorio's whole career has been that. He comes in somewhere and people don't really know him, and then he starts and they hate him, and they're like, what's he doing? He doesn't have a clue. He has no idea what he's doing. And then the players are convinced by him, and that's the stage where we're at now in Mexico. So now we're at the stage where the players really like him, but nobody else really does. And then eventually, this is the next step. In theory, is that something good happens. So hopefully that's the World Cup next year.
But he doesn't. But he quits when he doesn't feel like he's going to do well. And I think he's quit in all of the other teams. He's the one that has left. He hasn't been fired, and the teams that he hasn't, which I got to kind of see again. He did well, and so we'll see where it goes. I know. Fuera Osorio, I got it on the chat right here.
Well, he's already in the World Cup. He's already in the World Cup, man. The last one, they weren't really even close to the World Cup. Now they are, so we'll see what happens. I mean,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, muchachos, thanks a lot for joining us on this little over an hour of the Mexican Soccer Show. Hope you definitely liked the show. And like I said, keep following us. Naib, close us off.
Well, we'll have to see exactly what happens with someone named Carlos Vela. No, I think in the last hours over there in Europe, there's still not a good sense if he's going to remain in Real Sociedad. You know, his contract is over after this season, and Real Sociedad sort of wants to cash in. There's possibilities in France. There's possibilities in Spain. In Real Betis, one of the main, and of course MLS. Like, you know, I mean, ya que sea Gio, Jonah, y Vela.
Jonah.
Right? That's what we got yourselves to see. That's a cherry on the cake.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys on the next edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. Hasta la próxima.